Hi, this is Ned Siegfried from Siegfried and Jensen. As proud sponsors of BeliefCast, we hope you are inspired by Todd's weekly podcasts, which contain so many courageous stories of recovery and personal growth. Remember, it's not what happened in the past that matters, it's what happens in the future. We invite you all to work hard and be optimistic about your future. Enjoy today's podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Todd Sylvester with the Todd Inspires BeliefCast. Thank you for tuning in once again. You guys are amazing. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for sharing these amazing, incredible stories that we hear. I get emails all the time where, how this has impacted people's lives. It saves lives, and many of you have commented on that, so thank you so much. A shout out to my sponsors. Without you, we wouldn't be here either, so thank you. And we are in for a treat today. We are joined today by Jenedy Paige. Jenedy, thank you for being with us.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here.
Yes. You have been referred to me by several people. Like, you've got to get her on. She's incredible, And I know you're a very busy woman, but thank you for doing this. You talk about how you were blessed with two things in life. You're an early riser and consistency.
Yeah.
So is that even from the time you were little? I guess that's what.
Yeah, because I've developed all these gifts later in my life. Like, I run, I cook, I paint, I now ninja, and everyone's always like, Jenedy, you have all the talents. Like, you were like first in the talent line in heaven. And I say, no, listen, like, I was really blessed with two natural abilities.
Yeah.
Everything else I've just earned through blood, sweat, and tears. But from the time I was born, I was an early riser. Like, when I was 8 years old, I started playing the piano, and I walked myself to piano lessons down the street at like 7 a.m. in the morning. And I would practice the piano every morning at 6 a.m.
Wow.
And I look back now that I'm a mom, and I go, that wasn't normal. Yeah, that wasn't normal.
Right. Right.
But yeah, so those are my gifts.
Yes, and you've used those gifts to become a professional oil painter. Guys, if you haven't seen her paintings, we were just talking about this before we came on live, and they really are. They're stunning. They're amazing. I know you hear this a lot, and you're very humble about it, but they really are just out of this world. And you're an American Ninja Warrior athlete, right? And that's no joke. And if you guys have watched some of her workouts, she goes hard and strong. And man, you got energy for days, it seems like.
Oh, thanks.
You believe that we all have this divine spark in us. You work really hard. You're from BYU, or you went to BYU-Idaho, mm-hmm. and you give a lot of credit to that experience up there to where you are today. You're a wife, a mother, a teacher, a runner. You've struggled at times in your life, and we're going to talk about a few of those. People will say you need to relax more because you just go, go, go. She is very passionate about her faith, and she's going to talk about that as well. But we're just in for a treat, and I just hope you guys will feel the love and passion and spirit that she brings to everyone. So, Jenedy, again, thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
So why don't we start? Tell us where you grew up and maybe a little bit about your family and your childhood.
Okay. So people always ask where I'm from, and I say like the Intermountain West.
Okay.
I never lived anywhere longer than 5 years prior to where I live now.
Okay.
So I've lived in California and Utah and Arizona and Colorado and Oregon and Idaho, and we bounced around a lot, and people always say, well, was your dad in the military? No, he just liked to move.
Yeah, right.
And that was actually really good for me because I was actually painfully shy as a kid. If I ever had to like give a talk in church, it was the worst day of my life.
Right.
I have 3 siblings. We're super, super close. Like my best friends. And I think probably moving a lot maybe had something to do with that.
Sure.
I have incredible parents. Yeah, like my mom, she changed my life.
Yeah.
And I feel so blessed because I know not everybody is that fortunate to have such a strong family foundation.
What do you mean by that? She changed your life? I mean, I think overall we can understand that, but was there something specific that you're referring to? I see you're getting emotional here.
Yeah. So when I was 11, we had a family meeting, and she asked us like what the guarantee was to get back home to God.
Yeah.
And I was, 11, so I was like, we need to get baptized. We're like, just kind of like reciting some things that I had heard at church. And
Yeah.
she said, those are all really good, but they're not a guarantee. And, when you're 11, you're like,
you're like, excuse me?
I've got nothing.
Yeah.
And so she said, but no, there is a guarantee. And she challenged me then to have a daily personal relationship with Jesus Christ.
Oh, wow.
And she said a way I could do that was through writing in a journal and saying my prayers and reading scriptures every single day.
Okay.
And it was, you're a kid and you think, this is it. I'm just going to write in this book and then I'm going to read some scripture and then I'm going to say a prayer. And that's going to be this really powerful thing that's going to like guarantee me a spot in heaven. Okay.
Yeah.
So I started that night and it changed my life, that pattern. And it's something that I tell people over and over again because it's incredible. And it sounds so simple.
Yeah.
But it creates this pattern where when you write, you take a step away from the present and you can see a bigger picture.
Right.
I feel like our lives right now are so fast and all our entertainment is so fast that it's really easy to kind of like numb to what you're even experiencing.
Yeah.
And so I love this pattern of writing because it just gives you a minute to write about like, what do you want? Where are you in life?
Yeah.
Where could you be? And then what are you struggling with? What's breaking your heart? What do you hope for?
Yeah.
And when you write those things, when you're honest with yourself, then you know what to pray about.
Yeah.
You're not just saying
randomly saying
yeah,
stuff.
like another prayer. Dear
Right.
God, help me have another great day today. Thank you, the end,
Right.
And then when you read scripture, it's not just I'm reading scripture because I'm supposed to. It's like, well, I'm having this problem and could there be a solution here?
Yeah.
And so to discover that at 11,
Yeah, totally.
that pattern has directed every major decision. It's, and this is something that I say over and over again, is as you come to know Jesus Christ, you come to know who you are. It's like you come to know him and he teaches you about yourself.
Yeah.
And that's exactly like what's happened to me.
Wow. So that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So, I mean, you talked about you're an early riser, you're consistent. So obviously you got very consistent in doing those things, right? That was one of those gifts that helped you. Were you mentioned that you were kind of a shy child or maybe painfully shy was your words. Did you, as you got a little older, did you start breaking out of that shell? I mean, by the time you were in high school, were you still struggling with that or were you more outgoing and confident at that point? Or?
Yeah, I would say I was really shy, like as a kid, like elementary school.
Gotcha.
And then I remember junior high, I had to give an oral book report and I was terrified because, get up in front of people. But in my oral book report, I made my class laugh. And then all of a sudden there was like this big relief, like, oh, they think I'm funny. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And then, but honestly, it wasn't until I was in high school that I feel like I really kind of started to figure out who I was and that I didn't have to be so scared in front of people anymore. But honestly, I laugh all the time when I think back on who I was because now I speak all the time.
Yeah.
Big groups of people and it's like one of my favorite things to do,
Right.
So it's funny to think about how it all started where I was like so like yeah
That's awesome. So we talked about how what an amazing painter you are. Did you start painting as a young child? Did you have that passion when you were young or did that come later as well?
Yeah, actually I tell people all the time I didn't have like any talent with art. In fact, my kids, I got out ornaments for Christmas and I have my kindergarten ornament still. And my kids look at it and they were like, oh yeah, Mom, you didn't really have any talent then, did you? And I was like, and I tell people this all the time. So what happened? How art came into my life? Like it all comes back to this pattern I told you about of reading and writing and praying. So it was at the end of my junior year of high school and my dad got a new job. Like I said, we moved a lot and he told me that we were going to be moving that summer before my senior year.
Oh yeah.
And it broke my heart because I was this really nerdy kid in junior high. I mean, I had headgear and braces and glasses and all of it.
The good old fashioned headgear.
Yeah, so beautiful. And then by my senior year, somehow, like I said, I kind of figured out who I was in high school and stuff. Like by my senior year, I was going to be like a student body officer.
Okay.
And I actually had like a student body officer sweater that I designed for our senior year to wear. And I never got to wear it. Oh, that was a spoiler alert. Anyways.
Yeah.
So my dad and mom both knew how big this was. And they said, we're going to let you make this decision. Okay. So what did I do? I wrote about it. I prayed about it.
Yeah.
I read my scriptures and I sought direction. And this is so cool. Like I never get over the fact that we have a direct line to receive information from God.
Yeah.
About our lives.
Yeah.
That's so amazing.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think I get what you're getting at, because we can say that, but do you really understand what's being said here?
Yeah.
Like actually to get communication from God.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I know.
If we really think about it, right?
Yeah. So I was doing this pattern, but I wasn't getting any answers at first because I just wanted to stay in Utah so bad. I didn't want to move. So my mom would be like, Jendy, how's it going? Did you get any answers to your prayers? And no, Mom. And I'm praying and it's just like silent. Nothing.
Yeah, right.
But it's because my prayers were like, dear God, please help me know what to do. But can I please stay here?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, one day I was alone and I got this impression, a feeling. And this is something I talk a lot about too, following your feelings.
Yeah.
And my feeling was, Jenedy, what do you want?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a big question. So I wrote. I wanted to write a book. That's one of my things.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a mom. I wanted to go to college, and then it was like these kind of like future goals, and then I had the feeling was, well, which of these can't you have if you move?
Yeah.
Well, I guess I could probably do all of them.
Yeah, right.
And then the next question was like, what are the positives of moving with your family and the positives of staying? And I made 2 lists. And the positives of staying was huge. And the positives of moving had 1 item on it. And it was my family. And I made those lists and I saw it and I saw my family, and all of a sudden it was like they were on a scale and my family weighed way more than everything else. And so I knew in that moment that I needed to move. So I came home and told my mom. She was relieved.
Yeah,
now that I'm mom,
yeah.
I think about if we were moving and I gave my 17-year-old the choice, like to move or not, is a big thing.
Right.
So I moved and I went from a huge high school in Utah. We moved to a tiny town in Colorado, and I had 80 kids in my class. And I went to sign up for classes, and I was a very driven student and I just wanted a full ride to college. So I told the counselor, give me like all your hardest classes. Like what's your honor AP program? Like, and she said, we don't really do any of that here. And oh my gosh, what am I going to do with my senior year? And I looked at the classes and I said, well, I guess I'll take art. So I signed up for 6 art classes because we had a trimester and I took 2 each trimester.
Okay.
It just basically just filling up my senior year.
Yeah, filling up the
had
gaps.
One, like a woman was the entire art program at the school. And she handed me a blank notebook and said she wanted me to keep an art journal. Now, having been the journal girl,
Exactly.
like I was like, my interest was piqued. And
Yeah.
she said, instead of writing about how you feel, I want you to create an image about it. Wow. Okay. And I couldn't draw.
Wow.
So I got a bunch of magazines and I cut stuff out and I glued it together. And, having moved my senior year and just being 17 in general,
Yeah. Right.
so many things to create art about.
Sure. Yeah.
And I tell this to kids too, like when I teach in elementary schools or just anybody, that process, like if you don't like writing, just art journal with
draw.
like art journal, like draw.
Yeah.
Just collage things. It's this process of just taking something inside you that feels so big and it needs a place to go.
Yeah.
So that process is what like lit my soul on fire as far as art was concerned. I just fell in love so fast. And like I said, I didn't have very much talent, but the process of it, and I would show my mom my art journal. I remember the day that I decided I was going to pursue art. And I came home and I was like, Mom, I'm going to be an artist. and she looks at my book of like glitter glue and magazine clippings. I had some stick figures in there. And she said, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Yeah, Mom, I'm just like so passionate about this. This is what I need to do." So not having much ability, I went to Brigham Young University, Idaho, and the first day of freshman orientation, I'm in this big auditorium, and they show a PowerPoint of previous students' art. You know, sometimes when you're in a small town and there's 80 kids in your class, you think, I got ability. I can do this.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, and then you go to a university, and then you say, I'm in the wrong building.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, it becomes like painfully aware that you have no talent.
Yeah.
And so I started crying. I left the meeting. I was crossing the street. I can tell you exactly where I was in Rexburg, Idaho, when I had a very strong feeling that said, Jenedy, you can be an artist. And it literally just took my breath. I was like, have you seen my work? How can I possibly be an artist?
Yeah.
And, you know, because I had taken, you know, so many years trying to build a relationship with Jesus Christ, I recognize his voice more easily.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I said, how could this possibly happen? And I felt, I will direct your hand.
Yeah.
And I just remember just being so overcome that God cared about what I wanted and that he was willing to help me do it. But I also was painfully aware of how much time I had to make up for. Most people that study art know when they're 3 or 5, 7.
Yeah, that's why I asked the question.
Yeah, I had a kid in my 5th grade class that drew this tiger, and we were all, whoa, it's like magic. I think everybody had that kid in their class growing up, you know, that wasn't me. Yeah. And so I had to make up for all of this time where I wasn't drawing.
Right.
And so I found out that the building opened at 4 a.m. for janitors, and that's when I wake up early.
You're up early, yeah.
I got up extremely early. In college, you know, my friends, my roommates would be just like starting to do homework at 10 or
totally.
Or like, we're going to bake a pie at 11 o'clock at night. I would be going to sleep at 9. So I was totally the wacko. My mom thought, you have no social life. You're never going to get married. But yeah, I went to school at 4, and then the hours between 4 and 8 is when class started, were the most precious time for me. I still am the biggest advocate for super, super early morning. Anybody that's struggling, anybody that needs a direct connection to heaven, I promise you, 4 a.m., 5 a.m., beautiful time for that, because you're not going to get call, you're not going to get a text message, you're not going to get, there's no distractions. It's just so quiet. And I would go to school, and I would start every day with a prayer, and I would tell God, remember, you promised that you would be here for me, that this is a group project, that you're going to help me do this. So I'm here to put in the work, and if you could come and help me, that would be awesome. So.
Wow, beautifully said. I love it. So I'm an early riser, so I can relate. I love getting up early. I get up at 4:15 every morning, and I do this thing called my hour of power. It's the best thing I've ever done for my own recovery. And you're right, man. I have inspiration, revelation on levels, and I find myself like crying tears of joy. And I know you can relate with this, because my family even and my friends are like, "You're crazy," and I'm like, "No, you're crazy. If you knew what I get from this, you would all do it." Right? So I can completely relate. You said something too. You said this lit your soul on fire, and you don't need to turn around, but there's a quote on the back of the wall here behind you by Ferdinand Foch that says, "The most powerful weapon on earth is the human soul on fire." Yeah. And when you said that, I'm going, "Oh my gosh, you're speaking my language here." But man, how cool is that? Like, you knew it. You're just like, this is what I'm going to do. And what I'm hearing in your story so far, even when you were young, you're a very determined person. Is that accurate?
It's very accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of why you're so successful in the things that you touch and do, you know. I think that's amazing.
Well, and it's even, you know, doing an art career while having 4 kids.
Jeez.
Just I feel like I remember doing a show in Park City. It was an emerging artist show.
Yeah.
Group show. I'd been painting for 13 years, and I remember, and I was grateful to be there, but I remember looking at my husband and saying, so I've been painting for 13 years, but like I'm still an emerging artist. When do you think I'm actually going to emerge?
Right.
Because it just has been so painfully slow and dogged. But I feel like I'm finally starting to get somewhere. So
Yeah. Wow. Well, I want to get into the painting stuff, but I want to talk about something that's, a difficult subject to talk about. One of your sons passed away when he was younger. Talk about that experience with us, because I was really impressed. I watched a video of you sharing a portion of that story that I'm in my office here crying as I'm watching this. I actually posted it today saying, look who's coming on my show today. So I just want you to know that. Do you mind just sharing a little bit? You don't have to go into all the details, but just explain what we're talking about here.
Sure.
Thank you.
So I became a mom in 2008. My firstborn son was Victory Morgan. And it was such a hard juggle. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And then, in fact, one morning I remember it was like 3 a.m. My son was crying. I didn't know why he was crying. I'd fed him, I'd changed him, and I could see my easel across the way and had this brief moment of like not liking this little creature because he was keeping me from something that I loved. And in that brief moment, I felt like censured by God, just saying like, excuse me.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry. And I felt that I had to sacrifice my art, let it go.
Yeah.
And because otherwise I would always resent my children.
Yeah.
And so I actually did a painting kind of in memoriam of this great letting go, where my head's down, my hands are open, and I'm giving it away.
Wow.
And the beautiful thing is, though, it only lasted like 6 months because my son developed a sleep schedule. And then instead of doing dishes or laundry, I would just run to my easel. But that was a very powerful lesson for me early on. I'm so grateful I got it, because I had no idea I would only have him for 3 years.
Wow.
So
Jeez.
I had another son in 2010, Benson True, and then we moved to Tucson, Arizona, so my husband could get a graduate degree. And we moved in with my parents so that we could afford grad school. Right. And they had an acre with a pool and a pond. And my mom was so concerned my boys were 2 and 0, like 3 months old when we moved in. And so she put a fence around her patio so you couldn't even access the lawn. And we put in all these alarms to protect the kids.
Yeah.
And then after a year of all of those precautions working, one day, just perfect storm. And I pulled my son out of the swimming pool. And, you call 911. It's just such an out-of-body experience. I remember kind of talking at the paramedics, why aren't you here yet? Where are you? And my husband was doing CPR. And
oh my gosh. My
son was resuscitated and life-flighted to a hospital. And we then spent 7 weeks with him there. Mm-hmm. And after 3, I was pretty sure he was coming home. I mean, he wasn't on life support, and the doctors kind of tell you the longer that he lives, the greater chance that he's going to live.
Yeah, right.
But he also suffered from hypoxia, lack of oxygen, which caused his body to convulse in something called sympathetic storms. It's where it kind of looks like a seizure. All the muscles flex and your heart rate goes crazy. And the storms started out at like 20 minutes, and then he'd pass out in exhaustion, and they got to be 48 hours.
Really?
And your body, just like his body couldn't handle it. So, but I had all these nights in the hospital as a young mother watching my son, and there's nothing I can do. And it was a beautiful lesson on just coming to know God and Jesus Christ, because you can't be in situations like that and not have your whole heart reaching for heaven.
For sure, yeah.
And then God teaches you about the suffering of his son, and then you kind of commiserate through this beautifully difficult and tragic experience. So my son passed away, and I was so devastated because, like I said, I thought for sure he was coming home.
Yeah, right.
So I even remember the first time I came home to even shower when he was in the hospital, and you just walk into this house and it feels so empty, and just thinking, this can't be it. I can't ever come back here without him. Like, and so when that became a reality, it's just really hard to bear.
Yeah.
And more than anything, I talk about how I developed this beautiful relationship with God. And then all of a sudden I felt like he had let me down.
Yeah, sure.
And so what did I do? I wrote about it.
Yeah.
I told God how he let me down in my journal. I prayed about it. And I said, you told me I'm supposed to liken the scriptures to myself. Where's my story? Where's the mom that has all the faith in the world, prays for healing, and doesn't get it? And then God would just say to me, well, Jenedy, what about my son? Like, sometimes people have to die, and that, I'm sorry. And then, but I had all the faith in the world. Yeah, but Jenedy, what takes more faith? Getting what you want or continuing on when you don't?
Yeah.
Well, probably continuing on when you don't.
Yeah, wow.
So I just turned back to the same thing, you know, that the same support that had always been there. And I tell this to people too, is that I feel like you got to develop your faith system before the tragedy occurs. Yeah, it's good to turn to God when you're in tragedy if you haven't before. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. But it's so much better if you can develop that structure before the tragedy, before the crisis.
That makes sense.
Because then you have like this, you built a foundation.
You got something to stand on.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and then the other thing that really helped me was I was a runner, not competitively, just for funsies. In fact, I did do 1/2 season of cross country as a sophomore in high school, but only lasted half the season because competing made me want to barf. And I just told my coach, like, barfing when you're running isn't fun.
It's not a good it's not a good combo.
But I really loved running just for kicks. So I would just run whenever I wanted to at whatever pace I wanted. But then, so right after my son passed away, you know, it's like you get up early, you write, you pray, you read, and then I put on my shoes and I went running. And it's like so interesting because up to that point, running had just been enjoyable, fun. Yeah. And now all of a sudden it was like, I just ran and I cried, and it was like this release, you know. I had so much to feel, and I just, like I said, needed a place to put it. Yeah. And so then running and just kind of my art took on new meaning, running took on meaning, everything like became a lifesaver for me. Yeah. So
wasn't it in that the video I watched, it's like it was almost like in that moment you knew that you had become a warrior, right?
Well,
I knew what you meant by it, but I mean, but really, truly, in the grand scheme of things, that's what's going on here, because you're dealing with something that you never planned on, but yet, like you said, I love what you said, building this foundation you've been working on your whole life to help you actually get you through this very difficult tragedy.
Yeah, and
you know, that's a warrior status in my mind. You know what I mean? Like that's, and I knew what you meant in the video, but man, I knew. I looked at you and went, no, you are a freaking warrior.
Well, I was also really inspired by women of the past in my faith. We have all these women that crossed America in handcarts and wagons and lost children. In fact, even looking back in my own family history, you know, I had a grandmother that she birthed 11 children and she only raised 6 to adulthood. And I thought about these women and like the women who had to bury their kids along the trail. And it's like they had 2 choices: sit down and cry and die next to your kid. Yeah. Or you pick yourself up and you go. Yeah. And I realized I had that exact same decision to make. I literally could have just quit living, be sad every day. Yeah. Or I could just kind of dust myself off and let it empower me to move forward. So. Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously there's a lot to that story, and I thank you for sharing that. Sure. I know that's probably not the easiest thing to always talk about, but thank you. Your faith around all of that is very inspiring. It truly is. Thank you so much. Sure. You know, again, I think that also helped fuel you to be, you continued painting, and then you also, you know, started to maybe even compete competitively with this, you know, workout regimen you've been doing for a while. Let's talk a little bit about that, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. So it's interesting because my painting, all of a sudden I found that I just continued to art journal, like what I did, but on canvases. But that when I did that, when I was vulnerable, when I painted my story, I could help other people. I realized that, oh my gosh, I'm not the only one that's been through grief. And so that was really powerful for me to find a way to help others with my experience. As far as the workout goes, this is something that totally came out of left field. Okay, so I was a runner. In around 2015, I started group fitness classes. So I really, started to build some strength in my group fitness with my 5-pound weights. But then it wasn't until
5-pound weights.
Yeah, 2018, my younger brother invited me to go rock climbing with him at an indoor gym, and I had never been before. And I went, and it was a bouldering gym, so you don't have rope or a harness. It's just like a 13-foot wall, and if you fall in a crash pad.
Yeah. But
the routes were called problems. Oh my goodness, something about that just really resonated with. You can go to the climbing gym and you can face your problems and you can conquer your problems. Yeah. And I started out with baby problems. They're rated in a hardness scale, and I started a very beginner, but I didn't care. When I got to the top of a problem, I felt amazing. Yeah. And then you think, what other problems can I conquer? Yeah. And it's such a gritty sport because you literally spend 75% of the time falling and then getting up again. And you might, they call it projecting when you're working on a climb. Yeah. You might project a climb for, 3 or 4 sessions. Yeah. And then you go back on the 5th session and you send it. And all of a sudden you think, oh, that used to be impossible. And I just did it. What other impossible things can I do? So climbing really spoke to my persistent nature. Yeah. And so I got a pass and shoes and started climbing 3 days a week. I was 3 months into this climbing experience when I had a feeling at the gym. And it said, you should apply for American Ninja Warrior. And I said, no, thank you. My husband and I had watched the show. I loved it. I love the show. I love watching people do hard things and share their amazing stories. But the idea of competing was just so out there. I kind of laughed. And then this is the thing. People always say, Jenedy, you're so in tune. You God can talk to you so easily. But it's really obvious sometimes when you don't agree with it. I knew this idea was not coming for me because I 100% did not want to do it. Yeah. So I tell people that if you're feeling something and you're resisting it, but it could be a good thing, you should probably just do it. Yeah. So after a couple weeks of resisting this thought, I finally just prayed about it, and I felt silly. This is not something you ever think you're going to utter in a prayer. Should I apply for American Ninja Warrior? Yes. Wow. Are you sure? Why? Yeah, why? I've never been in a ninja gym before. I had it, but I couldn't deny that I had felt that it was something I should do. So I applied. And then after I applied, I told my husband, maybe I should be taking some ninja classes somewhere. Right. So I look up, there's a gym an hour away from my house. So I sign up for classes. Do you know who takes ninja classes? 16-year-old boys. Right. Yes. At this point, I'm a 34-year-old mom of 4
in there.
with 16-year-old boys. Wow. And my coach was 18.
You're looking at him.
I felt so dumb. I felt so dumb. And one of the first things you have to do is called a lache. And a lache means you swing on a bar, and there's another bar 6 feet away from you. And you have to launch your body to the other bar. And the first time, you're swinging on this bar, there's no way. I'm not even 6 feet tall. How the heck am I supposed to get over there? Yeah. And it seems so impossible. And this coach says, oh, you need to throw the bar behind you. Son, you realize that bar is stationary? How am I supposed to throw it behind me? But I tried, and then, oh my gosh, I hit the bar. And I thought, oh, well, it's possible. I touched it. I tapped it. And then I did it again. This time I slammed my wrists into the bar. Oh. I didn't catch it. I just slammed my wrists into a steel bar. Oh, it hurts so bad. Oh my gosh. And then I did it again, and I slammed my wrists again. And my coach is like, you should really stop doing that. And I was like, I know. Like,
I'm not trying to do this. Yeah.
But eventually I got it. And then when you get it, it's that same thing in climbing. Something that was impossible just became possible.
Yeah.
Of course, then I go to get in my car to drive home, and my wrists are so bruised and my hands hurt so bad I can hardly hold the steering wheel. And I just remember kind of looking up in the car being like, Lord, this is dumb.
Yeah. Why am I doing this?
I don't know why I'm here.
Right.
Next time we're going to need more support. So I just kept showing up, and it was the scariest thing. Like, so outside my comfort zone. Just driving to the gym, I would be just sweating because I was so scared, so nervous.
Yeah.
And I would just have to just put on your big girl pants and go to ninja class. And I'm so glad I did, because I got a phone call from some producers to come compete on the show that April. So I had exactly 3 months of ninja training before my first time
before the
on the
first
show.
one, really?
Yeah.
No way.
And for those that haven't seen
That's
the show,
amazing.
you complete the qualifying round is 5 obstacles in the warped wall.
Yeah.
And if you make it, like, I would say maybe 10% or less make it to the 5th obstacle. You know, they're really challenging.
It's very challenging.
I made it to the 4th obstacle my rookie season, and I was thrilled, you know, and the whole time you're thinking, why am I here?
Yeah.
Oh, I know. It's so that I can go share this story of how the Lord healed me after the loss of my son. And so I figured I was just going to be on this one episode, share my story, walk away from ninja forever.
Right. Nope.
Well, then I get an email and it says, oh, you did really amazing. We're really proud with your rookie performance, but you competed with too many celebrities and we don't have time for you on the show. So it was going to be like it never happened.
Oh, no.
and then you're just, well, Lord, why do we do this?
Yeah.
And what am I supposed to do now? Like, what's next?
Yeah.
And I had a feeling, and it was, well, you trained for 3 months. What if you trained for a year? Probably get better.
Yeah. Probably.
Anyways, it's now been 4 years. They have never aired my run.
Wow.
I actually did have a casting producer kind of confess last season that he said, Jenedy, your story is so hard, and it's like it's going to take considerable airtime, and we need you to get a buzzer.
You're going,
and this thing, they have to save it, you know.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Or it's like, yeah. So, because once they share it, it's shared.
Yeah.
So I just applied for this next season, and we'll see if I get on. But it has been an incredible journey. And one thing that I've realized just this year is that all along I was thinking, this is a random ninja tangent that the Lord is sending me on. My random little ninja errand. You know, I thought it was going to be one season, go back to being a mom and an artist.
Right.
And instead I realized, oh, you needed me to become a different person. You didn't want me just to be on a TV show.
Exactly.
You needed me to become a ninja.
Yeah. And in all areas, right?
Yeah. And now I coach. That's cool. I help teach an adult class, and then I teach 3 kid classes, and my kids come, and it's just become such a big part of my life. And even now with my art, I felt like I should paint strong women. So now the whole ninja world is like melding with my art world.
Wow, that's
because
so
there's
cool.
all these beautiful symbolisms with fitness.
Yeah, I've seen a few of your paintings. One where it's a woman and she's got boxing gloves on. It's from behind, and she's got them behind her head like this, and just it's just almost like this woman's been working out hard. She's attacking her demons and fighting, and it's really profound. When I looked at that was beautiful.
Yeah, or just even the idea that, like, for our muscles to grow, they have to go through trauma. They literally have to be torn.
Yeah.
So why are we surprised when in our lives we also have to be torn? It's because that's the growth pattern.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to be painting not only athletes, but cancer survivors, my 91-year-old widowed neighbor, all these different kinds of strength, you know.
Wow. It's amazing.
And so then I think maybe the whole ninja thing was to just not only change me, but to, it was meant to be in my art too. So.
Absolutely. Well, you handed me your book here, Coming Full Circle, of your paintings here, and they're again stunning. It's just amazing. Do you ever just look at these and go, man, I did that? Does it ever just blow you away when you look at what you did?
Well, I mean,
or does it just come so easy? You're just kind of like,
no, it's not easy. But the thing is when I look at where I started, I go, this isn't just me, right? I said it's a partnership. This is God helping me like he promised he would.
Yeah.
But the other thing is just like anything else, you train your eyes. I tell people all the time, people think that it's hand coordination, when you want to become a good artist.
Yeah, that's what I would have thought. Yeah.
It's like the better you see, the better you can paint what you see. If you can't see it, you can't paint it. Ooh. And so I feel that my vision, my ability to see has improved. And because of that, how I see my art has also become a little more critical.
Wow. Because
as my eyes develop over the years, I can look at my older work and be like, oh, Jenedy, you couldn't see that transition right there. Oh, that's okay. Now
that's
you can.
That's an interesting perspective on that. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a picture right now of a hand, and it's pointing kind of in the air a little bit. Some of the fingers are kind of curled inside of the palm. But it says here, reach hither thy finger, and behold my hands, and reach hither thy hand, and thrust it into my side, and be not faithless, but believing. That, I mean, seriously, I know I'm just speaking about this. It's a beautiful hand. It's amazing. And with the shadows and everything on it, it's unbelievable.
Oh, thank you.
Wow. You really are amazing at this. I mean, truly. And I wish, we'll definitely have links to all this fun stuff that you're doing. So what are you doing now besides, is there any other big plans, or are you just kind of like, I'm doing my paintings, I'm doing my warrior stuff, my ninja warrior stuff, and you're kind of melding those two worlds together? Are you kind of content where you're at right now in life? And
I don't think I've ever been content.
Yeah, I know. That's why. Just because I can imagine your wheels are always turning, going, well, maybe I could do this, and maybe I could go tackle that, and maybe I don't know.
Well, one thing I've been working on this past fall is teaching online classes.
Okay.
So I've taught in my studio for years, but I had so many followers online said, I'll never be able to come to one of your classes. When are you going to teach virtually? And so I started on a platform called Patreon to start creating videos and teaching people my art practice online. And that's been a learning curve for me for sure. Just learning all the streaming stuff. But that's also really exciting because it just allows me to reach a bigger audience.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I'm really excited about the Strong Women Project. It's going to be probably 2 years or more in the making. I've been able to already paint some American Ninja Warrior athletes. And then just this week, I had a photo shoot with an Olympic rock climber.
Nice.
So yeah, it's been incredible. Yeah.
That is incredible. No, again, that's why you had that feeling to go do this.
I know.
Because it's opened that whole new world for you.
Well, and I just think, what if I would have said no?
I know.
What if I would have just been too scared? I'm sorry, too hard, too big. And I was thankful again that I had this foundation that I could trust him. That when he told me to do this crazy thing, I could just say, let's go. Like I don't get it, but okay, And I think how many people out there just turn down their possibilities all the time?
Yeah.
Because they're scared.
Yep.
And so one thing I just want to tell people is first, develop that foundation, come to know Jesus Christ, let him teach you who you are, and then just trust him. When he tells you to do the thing, you absolutely, to forgive this person, go see this person, do this thing, and you're like, no,
right.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it, and you'll just watch miracles unfold.
I love that. And that's great advice. I want to, it kind of goes into this question I wanted to ask you. If there's someone listening to you right now, Jenedy, who's in a bad place, they're struggling, they feel lost. And I love what you just said, and you've already given some great advice, but what could you tell that one person who's in that place right now listening to you? What would you say?
I'd say go find a quiet space. If you can, bring a journal and write first how you feel, and then try a prayer. If you're not the praying kind, just experiment. See what happens.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine going through what I've been through.
Yeah.
Or becoming the person I become without my God in my corner. And so I have no other excuse, no other self-help, no other fix-it-all thing to offer anybody other than the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Wow. Great advice. I love that. You know, Jenedy, your story is unbelievable, but I what I'm most impressed with you, and when I started following you, because everyone's saying, you got to get her on, I just love the way you carry yourself.
Oh, thank
like
you.
You wear your heart on your sleeve. You're real. You're genuine. You're not afraid to talk about your faith. Obviously, everyone listening to this, but no, that's admirable, because I think a lot of people might be a little nervous to talk about that, and you're not, and that is very inspiring. And I think, you know, whether whoever's listening to this, if you don't believe in a higher power, or if you're not quite sure, you know, give it a shot. Like she's saying, I mean, we're not here to try to convert you to come to church. It's more about having a connection with God and Jesus and a higher power, whatever, however you want to look at that. So, but I just want you to know that this has been my blessing to have you here today. Truly.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I'm impressed with what you're doing. If someone wanted to reach out to you and ask you a question, or, you know, want to, you know, maybe get your books and do your online courses and just know more about you, what's the best way for them to do that?
So I have a pretty strong presence on Instagram. I post pretty regularly, and I try to answer all my DMs. And then my website is jenedypaige.com, and it has prints and just the gallery and information on classes and commissions and all that there.
Yeah. Okay. Beautiful. And I'll put all those links in the show notes when we go live with this. But yeah, thank you for coming and sharing your story with us today. It was beautiful.
Keep doing some good, Todd.
I'm trying. Yeah, I'm going to hold on to your coattails. It's like, whoo, you know, you made me like, I got to up my training in my Spartan, for my Spartan this summer that we were talking about before we came on live on air. But yeah, there you go, folks. I told you we were in for a treat today. Jenedy Paige, go check her out. And if you have a question for her, she'll respond. She responded to me. She didn't even know me. So I'm just grateful that she was willing to be here with us today. Please share this with your family, your friends, anyone you know that might even be struggling and they need a little uplift. This would be perfect. And share it with them. And you guys always do. So I guess I don't need to always keep telling you that, but thank you for believing in me. And Jenedy, one last time, thank you so much for your time today. It was amazing.
Thank you.
Till next time, everyone.